silent action in 3, 2, 1. And we are on episode 12 of the All In Loyalty podcast. All things loyalty, all in one place. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now. A lot of straits being blocked, a lot of oil not getting to where it's supposed to go, a lot of political turmoil happening, and you would think that it affects business. Of course it does, but does it stop them from actually working and changing when it comes to the loyalty sector? Believe it or not, no. Things are continuing to happen every 2 weeks for basically the last half of a year. We have been covering all of the latest news surrounding the loyalty industry. And this week, despite the last 2 weeks being full of turmoil, is no different. There's a lot of really interesting updates out there, a lot of interesting takes to cover. And in general, I think we can kind of pretty safely say that things are changing very, very rapidly, even more so than before, as everything goes and moves towards this sort of agentic trend that everybody's been talking about. It was a buzzword last year already, but this year we're really starting to see like sort of tangible results coming from that. And because of that, we're seeing businesses struggle to either adapt too slowly or even adapt too quickly. So it's been a very interesting time. Yeah, we've seen businesses. I mean, one of the big learnings from last episode, for example, was you have to keep your head on a swivel, but you can't swivel too frequently, right? So there were businesses that had the same, they announced a really cool loyalty program that had a cool point system, and then they just didn't change it for like a good 2 or 3 years, and then are surprised when they realize that it doesn't work after a while, and it's like, oh my God, we need to change something. But then you also have the opposite end of the spectrum where you have like Starbucks recently as the prime example that have overhauled their loyalty system for the third time in 3 years, at which point the customer just starts to be very, very confused. So a lot of things are happening. Of course, these decisions are all, it's all kind of a new playing field for a lot of these companies as they all decide in which direction they want to position themselves, whether it's from an infrastructure position, whether it's from a direct to consumer perspective, whether they want to go all in on the agentic side. It's crazy out there. But that's what we're going to be diving into today. That was kind of a long-winded introduction. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, dropping it over to the bosses. Gabriele, let's start with you. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing very, very good. Very excited about the agent conversation since, again, everybody's talking about it. And I think there's a lot of potential also in the loyalty space and most also in the payment space. So very excited about that conversation.
The very first article that we're going to talk about is exactly related to this topic. Slight teaser. Gianluca, how about on your end? How is everything over on your side?
Everything are good over here.
Damn it.
Yeah, I love that little introduction at the beginning with the current situation in the Middle East and the strait being closed. For some reason, I was thinking, is there a way to add a loyalty system to who can pass and who can't pass? I mean, they are kind of adopting a loyalty system by deciding who passes and who doesn't. But for some reason, my head went there. Is there a way of adding loyalty?
They can all pass. The question is, they can all pass. The question is just how far they come.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I don't know why it went that way, but it did go that way. How about you, Arno? How are you doing?
Very good, very good. I'll feel a lot better once gas prices and diesel prices start going down again, because I had to tank up yesterday, and my God, just for slight reference, I think 3 weeks ago, the price for diesel in Germany was around 145 euros per gallon, per liter. And yesterday I had to tank and it was 2.20 euros, resulting in about like a 100 euro full tank of gas, which was kind of insane to think about. And a lot of people just saying, okay, we're not driving for the next couple of weeks. We're just, thank goodness we live in a city because we can just take the train everywhere we want.
That's a 50% increase, yeah.
Yeah, and in Germany it's even worse because the train company, the Deutsche Bahn, is a private, like, for-profit company. So of course they respond to that too, and ticket prices are very highly expected to go up as well, correspondingly. Kind of a wild time. But yeah, no, otherwise everything's good. Otherwise all good.
Yeah, awesome.
Just let a man complain about gas prices. That's
Inflation.
it's adult conversation, right?
Exactly.
Oh man! But delving right into the topic of agentic commerce, we have a very interesting Substack update that came out from the venture capital company a16z, written by Noah Levine, who is, I believe, the head engineer over there. And he had some opinions to share that were very, very interesting. So we're going to be diving a little bit into that to start things right off. The title is Agentic Commerce Won't Kill Cards, but it will open a gap. And I think one of the most interesting things about this article, it's not really an opinion piece per se, but I think it's served as an eye-opener for a lot of people, at least it definitely did to me, about the role that agents versus stablecoins versus cards actually play in payment systems of the future. And so, yeah, that's essentially what this article is about. And I'm going to give a couple of quotes, and we're going to briefly go over some of our takes about it, where we see it going, agree, disagree, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, what it goes into is there was a piece from Citrini Research. That's what he talks about here, arguing that stablecoins would disintermediate Visa and MasterCard, which sent card stocks down sharply. Crypto Twitter cheered. The thesis felt clean. AI agents will optimize every transaction, interchanges, attacks, stablecoins route around it. I spend my days in crypto and I wanted it to be right, but most of it is wrong. Not because stablecoins don't matter, but because the real opportunity has nothing to do with replacing cards. It is about the merchants that will struggle to accept them. I'm going to move straight on to the next section of the article here. But essentially what he goes into is talking about the role that it plays and the infrastructure that is there with cards and how it cannot be replaced yet by stablecoins, or at least, or may ever. But anyway, the thesis rests on the assumption that AI agents, freed from human habit, will optimize away interchange fees. But cards don't just move money, they extend unsecured credit, pre-authorize uncertain transactions, and guarantee fraud protection with chargeback rights. Stablecoins can move money, that's part one, but they cannot yet do the rest. So basically, yeah, they're using the example, if you book a hotel room and it's nothing like the listing with a card, you still have the company, the infrastructure behind it that you can dispute the charge. With a stablecoin, if everybody's used a decentralized wallet, the transaction is the transaction, at least currently. And then they delve into the cards, talking about how 82% of Americans carry a rewards card. In Europe, I'm sure it's something similar. And yeah, it's just a very, very fascinating direction that he goes into, because they tend to go into the counter arguments and talks about the micropayments, talks about a lot of these different topics that are, sort of the barrier between this whole stable coins are going to take over kind of scenario. So first things first, maybe we can open up the conversation talking about the AI agents and how we expect them to actually dive into everything, because the article does go into a little bit more depth into the reasons why this thesis mentioned at the beginning is false, and why it's actually sort of more of a bridge solution than anything else. But for now, I think a good place where we can begin is talking about the AI agents conversation as a whole, because we did cover it for a little bit. There was an article that we went over in the last episode talking about the entire premise that in the future, when you're shopping, when your average consumer is shopping, your guy's looking to buy some clothes, he's looking to buy whatever it is for his house or something, he does it through an agent and not directly on the website. So that's already like a huge boundary and sort of paradigm shift that has basically every B2C company in the world entirely rethinking how they want to approach this. So maybe we can get the first couple of thoughts from both of you on how impactful this is going to be, if this is just the beginning, what you think it may look like in the future, et cetera, et cetera. So you get a bit of visionary talk here. Like, where do you see it happening? What does it look like to you? Maybe, Gabriela, we can start with you when it comes to the agents conversation. I'm guessing this is something that no CEO can really ignore, so I'm sure you're probably pretty well versed. Where do you see it going in the future? What does it look like to you right now?
Agent for my hair would be amazing. No, I mean, honestly, I think that the future is 100% agents and robots everywhere. Makes so much sense. I mean, there's so much very trivial tasks that we're doing every day the same way, or every week the same way, and so on. We're literally, in theory, it's very easy to automate, and that's why you then have agents that actually can take over all the digital stuff at the end of the day, and you have bots like Optimus from Tesla that can take over all the physical stuff. So I see a huge value behind it, and I don't even want to see any way around it, to be fully honest, because I think it will facilitate the life of so many people and actually give us time back that we can focus on family, friends, things that we like, etc. So just think about hours and hours that we're spending every day, every week on tasks that are not super relevant, or at least where we need to take a decision maybe, but in theory the execution can be really done by someone else, and in that case it's an agent. So for sure the future question is obviously, how do you execute it? What kind of agents are you using? How good are they? I mean, there is, I think right now, a bit of an overpromise on what agents and this different AI tools can do. As soon as you start digging deeper and starting using certain things, you start seeing that actually it doesn't work as smoothly as you would expect. There are a lot of things that already can be done super easily. I'm using, I mean, it's not an agent, but I'm using, for example, Claude for Excel, and it facilitates life extremely. Where before you had to basically spend, I don't know, 2-3 hours on a task. Now you just give a prompt and it literally does it in let's say 30 seconds. So there's a lot of things that already work very well, that can already save you a lot of time, but we're not there yet where you basically you have kind of that personal assistant that takes over everything for you, and you just have to press the button, in the sense that yes, this I like, this I don't like. So there's for sure some way to go, but I think it's the future, 100%. There is nothing going around that.
And Gianluca, how about you when it comes to maybe, I mean, A, general thoughts, and B, in terms of timeline, are we a little bit ahead of schedule when it comes to sentiment, or how do you think it's looking?
Yeah, I think we're a little bit ahead. This is the beginning. I mean, agents, just a whole topic of agents, I think at least on a retail, on a consumer level, in general, people are still at GPT chat. So it's like slowly people are understanding that there's automation that can be done. Slowly people are understanding that there's agents, in the sense that there's actual AIs that literally do what you do on a computer or in their own computer, and execute tasks without you needing to be there. I will sound like a broken record, and I know I'm extremely biased in that sense, and I loved that game when I was a kid, but that Mega Man Battle Network, like whenever I hear about agents and that topic, I always think about that. Always think about these internet navigators, these net navies, that's how they were called in the game, that are basically they have a human form, in the sense like you actually see them. And I always imagine that. Imagine you have, like we are seeing each other now on the screen in a small box. You know, I see you, I see Gabriele. Imagine having that, but an AI version that you can briefly tell something, hey, I need this, I need these groceries, and it just goes ahead and orders them, goes ahead and picks them. And you don't have to explain too much, you know. It does it by itself, maybe even in a future where the fridges are connected. So it knows what's inside the fridge. You don't even have to explain it. All these things, or maybe, you know, even clothing-wise, you're I don't know, you need new socks, whatever it may be. You tell it, it goes and finds it based on what you always have on. It knows that, right? It's very similar to just having even a significant other you live with who knows you inside and out and knows groceries, what to buy, knows if something's missing, toilet paper, for example, you know, all these things. So agents are going in that direction, 100%. And actually, there's an interesting, I watched recently an interesting video where I think it was Dan Mertel who was explaining how to use Manus or other AI to build agents that help you out with certain tasks, whether it's business, whether it's private. And he gave an example of a guy who built an agent with OpenClaw, and that agent was tasked with a task. I now can't remember what exactly it was, but was tasked with a task, and it went out and bought a course for, it was $2,500 to teach itself how to do that task. And that was all done without the initial user who built that agent actually intervening at all. The agent did it all in itself. So maybe going in the direction of the article, we're already seeing with this example agents that do transactions or do transact. And I assume that the case was that the credit card information was given to the agent. The agent used it to purchase the course. So very much going in that direction. And in terms of timeline, I would say maybe in the next 5 years max, we definitely will have fleshed out agents that do a lot of things and in a plug and play way. I think now you still need to figure out, you still need to prompt it, you still need to do a lot of work, especially with Meta buying Manus.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, one way Meta is going to introduce agents and agentic workflows, or agentic life, if you want to call it that, in the near future. And I think it's going to be pretty fast, considering that AI is moving at a speed that is beyond anything we've seen.
I mean, we've seen a lot of different, topics, especially around the whole OpenClaw thing. And it is true that one of the big sort of crossroads, it's already, people are already calling it the OpenClaw revolution, right? But still, one of the big sort of roadblocks that exists for it, as it is the permissions and the privacy and things like that. Because if you do give it your credit card details or whatever, then exactly the incident that you just mentioned could happen. That's why they do, we eventually start talking about programmable cards or tokenized wallets that let you set limits towards certain topics and everything. But that's basically how it always goes with new technologies, right? Certain risks come and then they get overcome. And that's how, I think, if people want it enough, the loophole will be found eventually. That tends to be how these things go. And yeah, it's been really interesting. I mean, of course, security is sort of the main reason. If you ask people why they don't use OpenClaw, it tends to be like, oh, I'm still not 100% sure what it does with my data, et cetera, et cetera. I've started messing around with it as well for personal use, and it is pretty, I don't know, it is a friend, number one. Like, you do have to then create accounts for it. You have to create a Discord for it. You can create a whatever account for it, a WhatsApp if you want to make a phone number for it and stuff like that, so that you can actually use it and mess around with it. But just the amount of tasks that it can do for you is pretty incredible. The fact that it does them while you're sleeping is incredible. And the rate, the learning curve is quite shallow, actually. Maybe at least for the basic things that you would actually end up using it for personal use. When you start using it and trying to apply it to business scenarios and stuff like that, I'm sure the level of complexity probably rises drastically. But as it is right now, it makes you already feel like a very clever person yourself, because you can say, hey, I made this robot that can do all these things for me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's just part of the bigger conversation. But to get a little bit more into the article itself, one of the interesting points here that they also make is, and this is exactly what we were covering just now, the earliness of the entire thing. So he delineates every platform shift creates a wave of merchants that the existing payment system cannot serve. When eBay created a marketplace of people selling to their peers, those sellers could not get merchant accounts. PayPal served them and grew to 1 million users, handling 40% of eBay auction payments by 2000. Shopify went from 42,000 merchants to 5.5 million in 13 years. People don't seem to realize that Shopify has existed for that long. It seems like it's more of a recent sort of thing that's been happening, but no, they've been hustling, they've been grinding this entire time. Stripe, as well, was founded before many of its eventual customers even existed. I guess the big takeaway from that whole thing is that yes, you need to build it first before it actually starts getting customers and stuff like that. That's pretty clear. The infrastructure does need to exist, yes.
Yeah.
But the point I think that he's trying to make is that while all of these payment methods are happening and while everybody's having these conversations, how much of this freedom should I be able to give to OpenClaw or whichever agent I'm actually using? I think it's potentially true. I think that the real use case or the real global use case, we still don't know it. And we probably may not know it for the next year, for the next 2 years, for the next 5 years. And then just to build on that, they talk about how 36 million new developers joined GitHub in the last year alone. They talk about how much of the code bases are AI generated here, 95%. They talk about Bolt, one of the new popular AI platforms, where 67% of the 5 million users are not developers. So this is another sort of trend that is going around, is people being able to create programs without actually having any coding knowledge. It started with vibe coding, and now through the use of these agents, it's actually starting to become more and more of a reality. So this is another really interesting point of it. And then when it comes to the actual side, we get in here and we say, and this is one of the most important sentences, I think, in the whole article, these same developers are also new sellers. They can create a product, but a lot of them do state that the biggest hurdle that they face is actually being able to monetize it, right? Make a subscription model for it. How are they going to actually do that? Anyone with the same tools can build these services and sell them right back. If you think about that, if you think about someone that built this groundbreaking product using Anthropic, using vibe coding or whatever it is, it's very easy then for that person to say, hey, Anthropic or whatever it is, look at that product and just make that for me. And then it can vibe code it. So the whole question starts to become, if you dive deep enough into that rabbit hole, you start to shake the very foundations of software as a service and what you actually do with it. It's a very fascinating topic, and one of the topics that I think are really interesting is then, and now we need to tie back to what we're specializing in, which is loyalty and loyalty programs. We had this conversation before where in the last episode where we were talking about the importance of a loyalty program now in a soon-to-be agentic universe. So here's the question I will pose to you guys. Knowing that the customer for most of these businesses is going to be agents, where does loyalty actually factor in then to this new reality that's projected for the next couple of years? If everybody does all of their e-commerce shopping through Claudebot, through whatever it is, any of these agents, but the companies do still want their loyal customers, does it become less about the emotional loyalty and more about offering value? Is it the opposite? Does it then become more about the emotional loyalty side? Like I for example, thought about this topic. And for instance, imagine if you had an agent and you were looking for, I don't know, a silverware set, and they ordered one for you and it arrives and it comes with maybe, a personalized letter or even a special little freebie in there that says, hey, thank you for purchasing. We're so happy, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for purchasing our product. Some of these little personalization things. That was just one of the things that came to mind for me. But I'm curious if you guys have any sort of visions, any projections for how the loyalty space and infrastructures are going to look like in this seemingly inevitable agentic future. It's a bit of a heavy question, but I don't know if either of you want to address this one first.
I'll go again with the question. I was checking out something.
I can go. Yeah. So one thing that I definitely see in the future of, or maybe one thing that I want to put out there and clarify from my side is, even if the future is only agents, like humans don't do anything anymore, at least digitally, let's assume. I'm going to talk about maybe the nearer future, even a fully agentic but nearer future. I still see digital shops or online stores, payment methods, and loyalty programs function in a very similar way to the way we know them now. Because just because you use an agent, it doesn't mean that online stores won't have websites anymore, or won't have an online presence anymore, because there's still human beings that like to browse. It's an actual thing. That's why there's the term window shopping. People go to stores even if they don't buy anything, and they still look at things because they enjoy that. So that won't go away. What might happen is that there will be a more direct access, an interface that is not a UI, but maybe an AI, even though that acronym already means artificial intelligence, but it would be an AII, artificial intelligence interface or agent interface, that is not visual, that is an agent can directly purchase or order things online. They will still be using cards. They will still be, if it's stablecoins, they will still be using accounts that are tied to the user, unless we go in a direction where we're talking about singularity, and we're talking about a future where agents are autonomous, they're sentient, and then it's a completely different topic. But as long as there's, essentially what I'm trying to say is, agents are, harshly put, just tools for humans to facilitate certain executions and facilitate menial tasks. Whether it's even grocery shopping, in a way, is a menial task. You need food, you need water, you need drinks. You don't necessarily always enjoy going to the groceries, to a store and do your groceries, or think about, okay, what do I need now this week for food? If I could snap a finger and my fridge is full, or the bell rings and I get my food, I'd love it. In that sense, I think that it's the agents is just an intermediary. It's like an interface where you, as a human, you use your agents to get to those items, to those subscriptions, to whatever it is that you do, then you purchase, without having to go through a visual interface that you use as a normal human being that we are used to now. And as you say, the purchases happen through the agents. Yes, because the agent is doing the purchase, not you. So you're not on the website, you're not on the store, but the agent is doing it on your behalf. Either way, I still believe that normal payment systems will exist. You will have to give it a card, whether it's virtual or not. You will, even if it's stable coins, you will have to give it access to a wallet, whether it's custodial or you own it. So that will still exist. It will just be easier and faster. In terms of loyalty programs, one thing that I do see happening is that, and that's a question of how well the agents will know you. Because let's say I have to make a purchase for Gabriele, okay? Now, after all these podcasts, we know that Gabriele has some memberships with certain hotels, right? He's my brother. I know him well. If I were to book a hotel for him, I wouldn't just book a random hotel. I would look into, or ask him, because I don't have access to his accounts, I would ask him, hey, where do you have the most loyalty points out of all the hotel memberships that you're using? Oh, okay, you have this status on this hotel. Let me check those rooms. Let me check that availability. Let me see if I can use the points that you have to maybe get you an upgrade, or to even purchase the whole stay with points, so you don't have to spend any money. This is me as a human being doing that on his behalf. If he would ask me, hey, can you please book a hotel for me? That's what I would say. I would ask him, which status do you have where? How many points do you have where? Do you prefer a certain hotel more than another? And how long are you staying, and all that information, of course. Now, you replace me, in this case, with an agent, it's exactly the same thing. The better the agent knows you, and the quantitative things are very easy. It has access to your accounts, or you give it access to your accounts, to your memberships, to all your loyalty programs. It knows where you have the most purchasing power in terms of loyalty liquidity or loyalty reward liquidity. And it knows your preferences based on your previous booking history. So it will, in terms of data, go in that direction, hopefully. If they are able to build agents that also understand your sentiment in a good way, I'm sure that will also mix in decision making on the agent side. But in terms of loyalty, I believe that there where you are most loyal in terms of usage and engagement with loyalty programs that's where the agent most likely will interact the most, because it sees the value that you receive from doing more transactions there, instead of or maybe being less emotional and saying, okay, hey, you have these amount of points at this hotel and this loyalty program, but there's this promotion on the other one where you get, 100,000 points if you book for the first time. You're not a member there yet.
I see what you're saying.
Why don't we book a hotel room there so that you have the maximum value? You as a person will think in emotional terms, most likely, and say, but I'm already there. I don't want to open up a new account, et cetera, et cetera. But if the agent does it for you and you don't even have to bat an eye and you get more value out of it, you wouldn't be unhappy. So that's one thing I see. I see maybe more calculated decisions because it's AI. It doesn't think emotionally. And more optimized towards value, because then the experience that we talk about so often in these podcasts of human first experience is irrelevant, because it's not you as a human who's booking the hotel and seeing, oh, nice, I get like a pickup at the transfer pickup from the hotel, from the airport, or they welcome me with, a parade or something like that, just to make the example. The agent probably doesn't care about that. And the only threshold there is if AI and these agentic models go so far to understand the emotional value of these things. If not, then it's all quantitative value.
That was going to be my rebuttal, actually, is does the agent then actually think that you might like that parade, And then it's like, then it starts to become a bit more calculated.
I think that's where it becomes interesting, is how far do these agents, are they, like in the game that I always talk about, are they basically sentient beings and they're your best friends that know you deeply and who know you deeply and therefore make the decisions in your best interest 360 degrees looking at your life? Or is it more so very calculated, okay, this is the best value, best bang for buck, we'll do that?
Yeah, I feel that for sure. First of all, slight aside, Gabriele, I think we're going to have to place a Mega Man mentions counter on the bottom left side of the screen just so that we can get the total amount that game gets brought up. But secondly, to grab your take on this, I do think one of the other big takeaways and what's interesting about what you mentioned, Gianluca, is that it starts to become very product specific as well. I think, if somebody wants to go on a nice vacation, then the experience just becomes that much more important. And those businesses will for sure be behooved to improve their customer experience as much as possible and make it then as friendly, as agent friendly as possible. But then I think it also interestingly opens up an entire subsector of customer where, for example, if I'm with my AI agent and I say, hey, I need toilet paper, I don't care where you get it from, make sure it's 4-ply, make sure it's super cheap, and give me really good points. Then it starts to become something that's a little bit more calculated and cold in a numbers game, because the brand, I don't care. I don't care. As long as it meets those 3 requirements, that's good enough for me. And I think there will be an entire, potentially market around there. But Gabriele, let's hop over to you now. Gianluca mentioned a couple of really cool examples. There are, it is going to be changing depending on which industry we're in. In which direction are you thinking when this comes to this loyalty conversation? So first of all, maybe from the side of potentially a business like, I don't know, a supermarket or an e-commerce company where maybe there will be less human interaction and more agentic interaction. And then also from the point of view of something that becomes much more experience focused, like a hotel or a flight or something like that.
I think it has to do more with the purchasing process. So the less experience-driven the purchasing process is, the more an agent actually can take it over. So let's say you want to buy a Ferrari. Buying a Ferrari is itself itself an experience purchasing process, because you go to the store, he makes a tour of the store, he shows you all the different models, you discuss with him, you chit chat, you get something to drink. Like already that is a process. You maybe also do it over the weekend because you have a bit more time, right? They maybe invite you to an event where you can drive, I don't know, 1 or 2 Ferraris and so on. And so I think the more experience you have during the purchasing process, and that mostly also has to do with obviously like more high spend, let's say goods and services. So also if you buy a house, most probably you won't let the agent do that because it is actually an experience. You have to visit the house, you maybe talk with the architect, you talk with the previous owners, you want to check all the rooms, you want to do a lot of things. You talk with an interior designer about, hey, how can the house look like, right? So you have a lot of steps to actually until you buy that specific good, right, or service, that an agent can support you during that purchasing process, right? So maybe in the example of the house, it will search you alternatives that are in the same surroundings, and it will tell you which kind of prices they have. So it will, let's say, support you throughout the whole process. The more of the less of an experience the process is, the more an agent can take it over. So for example, if you take groceries is basic in the sense that like as soon as it learns which kind of milk brand you like, or which kind of wine you like, or which kind, and I mean, honestly, thinking about it, like if you use right now a grocery app, right, that use their loyalty program as an example, and you scan every time when you're at the cashier, you basically say that you want to earn those points. Like with my app, for example, all the receipts are stored. So in theory, the agent could go through all my receipts of the last 5 years, and he would know exactly what kind of products I'm always rebuying, meaning that he doesn't even have to ask me. If I tell him, I don't know, buy me olive oil, just as an example, right? It would know exactly, okay, the last 4 years you always bought that brand. Most probably you suddenly won't change just because an agent is buying it. So it will just buy that olive oil, right? Where it doesn't have any data, the intelligent agent would ask you, hey, by the way, I saw there are these three options. Which one do you like the most? A, B, or C, right? Maybe it gives you a bit of information. So there, the whole thing can be taken over. Same thing for holidays as an example. Also, if it's a very expensive holiday, mostly the process of booking that holiday is either you do it yourself, or if it's a really extensive holiday where you say, hey, I'm going, I don't know, 2 weeks with the family somewhere. I don't know, we're going, for example, to the US, we're making a little road trip. We stop in New York, we do Miami, and then we go to San Francisco and so on. And then I have to check which flights do I take, like which hotels do I take, which experiences do we make, who is kids friendly, who not, can we do something only as parents, and etc. Do they have nannies that they can take? Like, there's so many details basically connected to it. And in theory, it's just somebody taking the time to checking all those details. But it's not like a huge experience. It's literally just checking those details, right? So an agent can take that over. So I think it's more connected to that. The more the purchasing process is an experience by itself, the less an agent will take it over from my perspective, or say the amount of purchases that an agent takes over is much smaller than for a good or service that actually has a very low experience purchasing process. So that is one part, and the other part, yeah, I also think that a lot of I would say, but it's also more like, let's take the toilet paper topic. I mean, it's a commodity, toilet paper, like, so that there is a huge difference in quality and like differences in results.
Right.
And so basically, the whole, if you think a bit about, and I mean, I remember when I was like much younger, watching TV and so on, like as a kid, you saw, for example, toilet paper ads where the little puppy was walking by, and like it was like, oh, this is so soft, and all of the obviously an agent doesn't care anything about if the puppy walks by and thinks that the toilet paper is very soft, right? It will just check what is the quality, like what kind of quality do you want, how much do you want to spend for it, and that's basically, and how fast do you want to have it. So I think that will be very, very rational. Those will be very rational purchasing decisions, and it has not anymore that feeling of, I make as a brand an ad with the sweet puppy. The family walks in the store with their kid, and then the kid says, "Oh, look, mommy, this is the puppy that I saw in the TV. Let's get that toilet paper," right? Doesn't even get if it's toilet paper or not. They just see the puppy. So I think that will be, brands will have a very difficult time to actually convince customers to buy something that has an emotional, kind of more a psychological way how to create a purchase intent, or basically let the customer make the purchase. I think it will be very driven by data, and that's it. And the same logic for loyalty programs. I mean, right now, yeah, loyalty programs are kind of trying to, through different perks, through different values of points that go up and down, etc., to give you kind of that psychological feeling that it makes sense to just now use this loyalty program, use this specific brand, and so on, where maybe a lot of people don't even make the calculation, is it worth it or not? They just kind of are a bit, how should I call it? It's again, it's more an emotional decision. It's more a legacy decision rather than a rational decision, where the agent will make a super concrete and rational decision. It will literally calculate, does it make more sense to book you this airline or this airline, because you have two different loyalty accounts, or if we open up a new one, that you actually benefit much more than if you just earn some miles there and so on, or some points there. So I think that would be much tougher to sell through psychology and sell through like soft facts, or however you want to call it. Yeah, right. And it would be much more data driven. So
puppy yes equals buy, puppy no equals no buy.
Yeah, no, like seriously, like at the end of the day. But again, this is one part. The other part is obviously also, I think you need to train this agent to your flavor. Because I'll make an example. What if the agent says, "Oh, you know what? There is this is exactly the toilet paper you like. Hey, there is a super good promotion, the 50% discount off. I know you need, I don't know, 12 packs of toilet paper, or 100 packs of toilet paper per year. I'll order them right now, all of them, so that you have, or I even order for the next 5 years." And then you have, I don't know, a room full of toilet paper just because the agent. And I don't know if you guys know the series Silicon Valley.
Sure.
Yeah.
There is one scene where Guilfoyle actually has his AI connected to their servers and so on. And I thought, what is his service called? Son of Anton or something like that. And then basically, Son of Anton, like there are two things that happen. He says, "Hey, find the most efficient way how to debug the code," and it basically deletes all the code, because it says, okay, the most efficient way to debug the code is to just delete it, which in
I
theory
don't have
makes
any
sense.
code.
Yeah, no, in theory makes sense. He just removed all the bugs, right? And the most efficient way was not looking for the bugs, was just deleting the whole code. And then on the other side, he ordered he was like, yeah, find the most cost efficient way to order burgers for the company. And then I think he'd ordered, I don't know, 300 kilos of meat, right? So there are like some guardrails that you have to integrate, so that the agent also understands very clearly what you want, what you don't want, what makes sense, and what doesn't make sense.
True.
And obviously, there's a lot of data input that needs to go in there. I think it's the amount of data that the agent needs. And I'll make an example. Like, take the grocery list that I mentioned before, right? So I would give the agent all my grocery shoppings that I did. What is not in there is the data point. Why did I do that purchase? Was it like a normal weekly purchase that I just need for myself for a week of just living? Was it maybe because I had the family over? Was it because I had date night? Was it because I did a guy's dinner where with friends we just hanged out and so on? So it's like you also need to give those kind of data points that the agent gets smarter and smarter and smarter and understands when do you actually do what, right? So
Which it will, once everything is connected. That's
Yeah.
what I think. That's when
100%.
everything, when it reads your WhatsApp, when it's
100%. It's just like the amount of
when it
data, like
literally lives in everything that you have digitally.
100%. Yeah. Then you have. Would remind me to do my hair again. Literally. Look at
It wouldn't remind you. It would book the appointment, and it will send you a notification in the calendar saying, I saw that you have time on Friday at 3 p.m. I booked for you, considering that it takes you half an hour to drive there, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and I saw you
All
in the podcast, and I saw that you were always touching your hair, so I think it's time. Now, but again, there is a lot of data that needs to go in there. I think that is for sure one topic is how do you feed all of that data to the agent. The other topic is for sure also the whole privacy topic. If we talk about companies, it's also compliance topic. I see, or let's say, I just saw a contract from from a partner that we're starting to work with. They clearly stated none of the data that you get from us can go in an AI. There is literally an AI clause in the contract. So I think those topics will be more and more relevant going forward, and we need to clearly understand how that looks like. Another thing is like loyalty programs, for example, you can't give your username to anybody. So question is my agent now, is it fine that I give the accounts to my agent or not?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest question that all of the other people have been asking when we go back to the whole security and privacy thing. Is like most people try to solve this by creating an account for the agent and everything. Some people just completely give in right away and say, hey, privacy is a lie anyway, so you can have all my shit, I don't care. And that's just it tends to go a little bit back and forth. But what I think one of the most interesting points, and one of my takeaways a bit from what you said, is the interesting sort of different attitudes and angles with which different generations will approach this entire thing. Because if you were talking about this commercial, this ad for toilet paper with the puppy and whatever, I checked with my girlfriend. We watched just a while ago linear TV again, just to see what it was like. Because we were generally cord cutters. We don't do that at all. But the amount of commercials that were there that are exactly like what you described, it's like almost half the airtime is actually commercials nowadays. And the audience is still there, the I don't know, 60 plus, I don't know what the demographic is of people that watch linear TV still, but it's still there. And how are they going to then approach something like that? And as soon as you talked about imagine then, what does an AI agent doesn't care about these commercials? What made me think of right away was a sort of commercial that's like half a frame that just like crams in all of the most important and enticing data that it just reads and then thinks, this is interesting. As more of like a PowerPoint presentation or something. I don't know. Just one of these weird, random things. Guys, we've been getting so sidetracked, by the way. We've been on the topic of payment methods and stable coins. But that is not to say that the agent's topic, I mean, if anything, it's probably the best possible sidetrack that we could have had because it is the most relevant conversation that everybody is having right now. And the interesting thing is there doesn't seem to be any perfect solution yet, right? No company has come out with saying, hey, we've figured this out, right? That's just not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. We are seeing a lot of different changes made, but to go back on topic here to the article that we've been discussing, they talk about the way that these merchants work and the way that they cannot use credit cards. Because we're talking about vibe coders, we're talking about people that use agents to create apps and everything and how they can make money off of them. One of the big important quotes here is, existing payment processors will find it difficult to onboard these merchants, not because the technology is lacking, but because when a processor says yes to a merchant, it takes on that merchant's risk. If the merchant commits fraud or racks up chargebacks, the processor is on the hook. Processors reject applicants they cannot underwrite. A tool with no website, no entity, and no track record is extremely difficult to underwrite. And that's why they then use the example of a street vendor, right? They talk about here where if there's a street vendor that's out there, he will accept cash and not card, not because it's preferred, but it's because they have no choice. And that's what they talk about here, where they talk about these merchants that they'll choose stable coins as a way, as a payment method. And here it says also, not because cash is better, but because merchants with their profile have historically struggled to get approved for card acceptance. They will not be choosing stable coins over cards. They will be choosing stable coins over nothing, meaning it's kind of the only choice that they have. And then the general sort of Fazit conclusion of this article is that at the end of the day, as you see here, every wave of new merchants eventually gets absorbed by the traditional payment system. The cards have always won out in the end, basically. And the same thing is probably eventually going to happen here as well. This is just another sort of technological development that's happening. And that in the interim, while there's no other way to do it, if you're somebody that's trying to sell some of these apps, the easiest and most straightforward way that you can do it at the moment is through stablecoins. So that's basically how it is right now. They're talking about it as sort of an intermediary between now and when, a sort of infrastructure will have been laid out. So I don't know if you guys, if either of you have anything that you would like to add to this particular topic before we move on to the next one. But I did find it a very interesting conclusion, and it definitely opened my eyes to like where this could all be headed in the future.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the only thing. No,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Maybe the only thing that I would add to this is, and I'll keep it short, is that I think that the whole topic about stable coins, crypto, all that stuff is so often looked at in a weird way. It's just because it's crypto, it's because it's new, it's all that. In the end, it's just another currency. It's cash, digital money, stable coins. It's just an evolution of money, of a value transfer method that with time, with enough acceptance, it'll be used. That's it. Also, nowadays, cash is harder and harder to use, especially in some countries, because it's less accepted. And the easiest is cards, yeah, for sure, because that's how literally 90% of the world works, or at least in retail stores. And in my eyes, the whole stablecoin topic being interim and maybe it's easier now and so on, yes, it might be because of wallets creation is non-custodial, you just create it, there's no intermediary. But in the end, it's something that the further we go, it's just going to be another currency. You'll probably pay with cash in some places, you'll probably pay with your normal digital money in other places, and then in maybe more modern establishments, you'll be paying with stable coins. Whether you're using your credit card with those stable coins, or you're using a wallet with those stable coins, or use another method, I don't think that'll be something big. Because remember,
Yeah.
what was the number? 18 billion, 80 billion, something like that, of credit card holders. Go teach them how to use wallets, to use stable coins. It'll take a moment.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that they'll be faster at enabling stable coins on credit cards than they'll enable people to learn how to use wallets and not mess up gas fees and make transactions actually work.
That is totally true. 100%. Gabriele, closing words to you for this topic.
I agree with the stablecoin topic. First of all, I think it's completely wrong to say these merchants will not be choosing stablecoins over cards. They will be choosing stablecoins over nothing. 100% wrong. And like, if you look at, I think US has Venmo as an example, which is actually was created to pay a merchant that doesn't have the infrastructure of let's say a larger merchant that has a point of sale system, etc. Right? So just take that. You don't need stablecoins. You just need that. Africa, as an example, has M-Pesa since years, where you can transfer money via SMS. So there's so many examples. Stripe, another example that basically enabled every merchant on this world to accept cash. So for me, the stablecoin topic is being exaggerated just because, again, it's crypto, and crypto community has a bit of tendency to overblow things just because they want to move volumes and the markets and prices and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you look at reality, stablecoin is an infrastructure topic. It's just about moving money back and forth in the, like, behind the curtains. It's very simple.
Mhm.
It's very, very simple, and that's the biggest use case. And it will, in future, never touch the front end and the user. Super simple. There is no need to explain to a consumer. By the way, it's a stable coin. Huh? It's like you have a USDT and it's USD. Who cares? Like,
Yeah.
as long as it's 100 USD and I can use 100 USD, if you use a stable coin behind, if you use a gold bar, or if you use cash, or if you use something else, I do not care. I just want to use 100 USD. And the merchant, exactly the same topic. As long as they get their 100 USD and they can pay salaries and rent and so on, that's it. So it's very, very simple. And I also don't get the point of it's easier for agents to use a stable coin and a wallet than a credit card. I mean, I think by now, most people that have a credit card and they bought something online, the credit card is registered in your browser.
That as well, yeah.
I just booked before 2 things, an hotel and a flight. I didn't have to take my wallet. The only thing was the CVC code, that I had to re-input.
But
But
even
honestly,
that, agents are code-based. They don't care whether it's a wallet or a credit card. If the code, makes.
Just saying, at the end of the day, if you, like, I already have a setup of credit cards and of loyalty programs, for example, etc. Right? And again, it has to do with all the topics of fraud. If there is a dispute, I want to optimize my miles and all of that stuff. So I already have that infrastructure and that setup. I don't want to change that setup. I want to make it more efficient. So that's why I can give my credit card to my agent, and my agent then goes out and buys stuff. Like if I tell the agent, hey, by the way, I need toilet paper, or I need to fly from here to there, and I need a flight, a hotel, a rental car, etc. I just want the agent to be able to buy that stuff, and not me to, like, that I have to basically always do that transaction, right? So there is, like, the logic of, we need, like, the agent can only use stablecoin, and it's easier to give the agent let's say a private key rather than the connection to your credit card. Really do not see any advantages to that. Any advantage.
But then why is the current state that people are actually using stable coins over credit cards? Like, why is this article being created in the first place?
I don't know, the guy didn't have a lot of, or had too much time on the weekend. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like, think about it. Like, do you see one data point here? Do you see
No, that's true.
how much money is actually being spent from consumers on goods and services in stablecoins? Zero.
You know what I might suspect? It might be that because these guys are so crypto focused, everybody knows crypto is a bubble. And so maybe a lot of all of the news that they see when it comes to agents is people that show up on their X feed that is like, relevant for their algorithm and that are very crypto focused people that say, okay, I've created this product and I accept stablecoins. So you can actually use the product using that or something. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like a sort of algorithm derangement syndrome or something. I don't know.
Maybe it was the agent that wrote the article.
Maybe.
At the end of the day, we need to be super factual. And stablecoins right now are mainly used as a really behind the curtains to move money back and forth, large sums back and forth, to do that more efficiently, etc. And that makes a huge amount of sense. Like, think about banking rails on stable, like on chain and with stable coins, right? There is no need that over the weekend I have to wait for a payment. Like, I can just send you money right now from my bank account to your bank account. Doesn't matter if you use Deutsche Bank and if I use, I don't know, UBS, it just works, right? So the value of that is immense. Like, how much faster money will be able to flow is crazy. But the thing is that, by the way, the same as if you want to exchange money, I don't know, from dollars to euros, etc. I was just talking to someone on Friday. They were trying to make a transaction in the evening to change euros into Swiss francs. It didn't work. So it was Thursday evening. They had to wait until Friday morning until that transaction actually happened. So all of that, there is so much value in stable coins to use it as an infrastructure. But to try to convince a small merchant, a consumer, to use stable coins and to, let's say, get related to that technology, zero value. Literally zero value. You should just keep the stuff as it is. And again, like, I don't remember last time a merchant told me, sorry, I don't accept cards. And if yes, it was a merchant that didn't want to pay any taxes. So it was very simple. Just get cash cash only, and that has other reasons, and for sure not the reason of they're not accepted by the processor. It's more because they want to manage the tax, they want to optimize taxes in another way.
I mean, nowadays, like just 2 weeks ago, my girlfriend and I went to a flea market, and most of the stands there actually also accepted cards and PayPal and stuff like that. They find ways around it. It's true that they do.
100%. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know actually the brand from what is from SumUp. Is that only a Swiss brand?
Square. Yeah, they're Square.
Yeah, like there's so many tools today that you, as a mini merchant, literally that maybe does a 50K a year, not even, that you can use, and you can accept cards, you can accept all kind of payments. If you have an e-commerce store, you connect to Shopify. It's the easiest thing ever.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
that's
literally,
true.
you can click and accept any kind of payment method. So yeah, stablecoins are nice, but they won't help the agent revolution, 100% not, and they will just be in the background and move money back and forth. And that is the biggest value for that.
They have their uses, basically. Okay, sounds good. Yeah. It's very, very nice. Guys, we're going to move straight on to the next topic because, as always, we tend to... I mean, when we dive deep, basically, when we get into some of these topics, especially when it's as... I mean, again, this is a very important one, and it's one that's definitely worth spending a little bit of extra time on because I think it also lays the groundwork for conversations we're probably going to have in the next months, years, whatever it is. It is going to continue to become a more and more prevalent subject. So that is definitely an important one. And now, as we move on to the next one, we already talked a lot about macro. But we need to continue, because there is this one's been more of a retrospective post. We're actually looking a little bit back on 2025, what the tendencies were there and how they're continuing now. This was a LinkedIn post that Gabriela shared with us, and it's from a guy called Laurent Guinan. I'm guessing he's French or Swiss. And yeah, he was talking about these very specific trends that he noticed, reshaping how brands reward their customers. So we're going to just go over these 4, I guess, pretty quickly, just deliver our takes, see if we agree or disagree, and then delve a little bit into it. But before that, he also has a little visual aid to go through it, to mention just how much change has actually happened in the year. Of course, this is probably just a subsection of all of the real changes that have been happening, but this is like a couple of notable names here. You can see how many of these companies have had these big overhauling changes to their loyalty programs. A couple of important ones, especially in the world of entertainment, being discontinued, as well as a couple of relaunches or entirely new ones. So this should just help to sort of fuel the conversation moving forward, where he goes into these 4 macro forces. And the first one of this is premiumization, which is the first time I ever said it. I actually struggled to say that word a little bit, but he basically says airlines are cutting loose low-value members and basic fare earners. Loyalty is becoming a privilege, not a right. This kind of ties into a conversation we had, I think, 2 episodes ago, where we heard about the overhaul for the, I think it was Advantage program, where they were giving a lot of priorities towards their card holders, saying how basic members can't earn miles for their economy flights anymore, et cetera, et cetera. We already shared our thoughts when it comes to that particular update, and just generally the fact that this was seen as a pretty controversial move, and it got a lot of clicks, it got a lot of social media attention, et cetera, et cetera. Has this been a trend in your eyes? Maybe, Gabriela, we can start with you. Do you see this continuing in the future? I mean, when you think premiumization, you do sort of think at the most basic level, those that contribute the most, whether it's money or time, should be seeing more rewards. That seems kind of clear cut. But are they moving more towards that? Are they more and more polarizing, the average user versus their most used or their most frequent users? What do you think?
I think it doesn't make sense at all. Sorry if I continue on this.
No, please, it's good.
No, because at the end of the day, let's be honest. I'll make a very simple example. Look, you have somebody that has on their bank account $100, right? And they make you a gift of $10. Now you have someone else that has $10,000 on their bank account, and they also make a gift of $10. Who sacrificed more? So, person that gave you 10% of their net worth, basically, in that moment, right? So, if I need to describe who is more loyal to me, towards me in that moment, is the person that made the bigger sacrifice. So, if you look at it from that perspective, like you as a brand that say I want to go into premium. It's a really difficult word.
It's a hard word, man.
Premiumization. I have to clap in between. Premiumization. It's really unfair, because at the end of the day, you might have someone that you put super high up in your loyalty program that maybe didn't spend a dime from their private account, but just spent a lot of money from their company account. So take a lot of those business travelers where maybe they don't even have big choice on booking the flight or booking the hotel and so on. It's mostly about they have corporate rates and so on with the airlines, with the hotels, etc. And the guy just always puts their member number, right? And just basically gets for free a lot of points and a lot of miles. For me, it's difficult to because it is so difficult to measure the loyalty of a certain person towards you, because it has a lot of different effects. I would just use very simple metrics. I would just say, okay, for every point or for every dollar you spend, you get a point, for example. Now, if you spend $10 or $1,000, obviously the person that spends $1,000 gets more points. So they are faster in redeeming their points, they're faster in getting bigger rewards, etc. And it's very simply connected to the spend because you can measure that and you can actually give value to every one of those customers, right? Now, if you have certain tiers, you can also define those and you can decide, okay, from what spend on per year, I actually want to give someone silver, gold, platinum, whatever tiers you have, right? But just saying, hey, only this segment of customers that spends a lot of money with me get something. Basically, what are you telling the other customers? You're worthless. This is basically the message that you as a brand are giving to 80% of your other customers. You are worthless. That's why you don't get anything. And what kind of
I guess
message?
that's why it was received the way it was. I mean, it was seen with a lot of backlash when the article actually came out.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
Again,
but this to me, this brings me back always to the same topic. In the end of it all, rewards programs, loyalty programs are something you get on top of the service you're getting. So the way I see this, with what he writes there, first of all, just also to maybe give him some credit, these are the four macro forces he's identifying that he saw when
that he's not right. I'm talking about the brands that are using
or the approach. Yeah. But basically one thing. Yeah, exactly. But one thing that I do see as well is with airlines is they already have really low margins. And basically the way I see it, them saying any economy flyers, basic fare flyers or basic fare earners also there, we have to be careful because if you look at economy, there's also within economy, there's like usually 5 different tickets you can buy for the same freaking seat. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if this means basic fare is in the lowest of the economy tickets, I do understand it. In the end, it's the lowest you pay for the same flight, for the same seat. And what they're essentially saying is, just because you flew with us doesn't mean we're going to reward you with points. Okay? It automatically means that if you want to be rewarded with us, you have to fly more often. So you get into a higher tier so that you get rewarded. Or you buy the higher tickets where they probably have enough margin to give you something back.
Yeah, but you get less.
Yeah, of course. You get less service, yeah, but that's what you pay for.
You can't bring any luggage, you can't reserve your seat, or you have to pay extra.
Yeah, of course.
All kinds of conditions.
It's the cheapest. That's why
you pay the cheapest price. Like if I want to bring more luggage, I have to pay more. If I want to have the flexibility of changing my flight, then I have to pay more.
But in the end of it all, they have to somehow justify the points that they give out, right? And if they can't pay for those points because the fares are so low and they have such low margins on those basic fares, I understand it.
No, I don't understand it.
I do, because in the end, I mean, it's very simple economics. Huh?
It's a shitty loyalty program design, very simple. Like
or they just literally have no margins to pay those loyalty. In the end, it has to be economically viable.
Then don't have a loyalty program. At the end of the day,
it's not black and white. That's why they're probably progressive. The higher the tier, the more money they spend on seats where they have higher margins, they give back more. Economically speaking, it makes sense. Whether a loyalty program member accepts it or not is a different story. There, I agree, of course. I wanna earn points everywhere. But at the same time, this is what competition is for. If another airline says, you know what, fuck it, we'll lose a bit of our margin, but we will keep more members, we'll keep more flyers, we'll have more booked seats on our planes, then people will fly with another airline, because if they get points for basic fares there, then they go over there. And then maybe those airlines that did cut the fare, the points on the basic fares will say, hey, you know what, maybe we can spare some margin on it and reintroduce it. I think that's something that is very simple, and in the end, premiumization is is just a dramatic way of saying that they can't afford to give points to everyone, so they have to make it that only the higher tier that spend a little bit more money on seats that have a bit more margin can get some points. But in the end, they're still flying. They're still getting the service and the product that they pay for.
Yeah, but the thing is that you also risk a lot that these customers then just check who has the best price, meaning that you will compete by price, which will lower your margin even more if you want to have passengers.
But that's what competition and capitalism is about. It's an open market, and customers go there where they see the best value.
I mean, there are two main strategies. Either you go through differentiation, meaning you provide a better product, or you go through price, basically having the best price. So as soon as you differentiate yourself, because you can actually give some additional value to those people, you go and fight for price. So I don't know how much sense it makes.
Or people still fly no matter what. Just like Apple removing all the USB-A ports from their MacBooks way before anyone else did, and everyone was raging about it. And MacBooks still sold the way they sold.
Yeah, the thing is that Apple is in general being seen as a trendsetter. No airline out there is being seen as a trendsetter.
Yeah.
So
either way, I think we're going to be able to. There have been two very polarizing opinions here, but the main thing is, and the interesting thing is about this show, is that in a couple of months we'll actually be able to maybe look back on some data and actually look at the results and see who was correct and who was wrong. And then one of you guys is going to get to dance a little victory jig on the podcast, and the other one will bow their head down in shame. But hey, that's just how it is. But that's just how it is. And that's one of the most interesting things about this. But it sounds like, Gianluca, the way you're saying it, it was almost more of, on American Airlines side, more of a PR blunder rather than anything else. And that like the wording of the announcement that they made might have been incorrect, and that's why it was seen as such a controversial post or something when it was first announced.
My argument is that they did it for economic reasons, for just pure economic math reasons, and like we need higher revenues and higher margins, higher profits, excuse me, and the loyalty program is siphoning a bit of that because you're giving back. That's what I believe. And then they communicated it the way they did, and people just saw, hey, I'm not getting anything for basic fare. F you. I don't like this. But yeah.
To add another point, by the way, I mean, exactly as an airline, you shouldn't be fucking around with your loyalty program, because that is actually the thing keeping you alive. And we had that
100%.
in the last, or I don't know, 1 or 2 episodes ago, when we checked out also the graph about, hey, if you remove the loyalty program from a lot of airline groups, you see that everybody's in a loss. So the more you fuck around with your loyalty program, the more users you start losing, the less cash you're also making through that loyalty program, meaning the whole group has less cash.
100%.
So it's like it's even more dumb to then actually
do it for that reason.
And honestly, you can still give something to your users. Like make it very simple. Like for the lowest fare, you don't get $1.1. You have to spend $3 to get a point. I mean, credit cards do exactly the same. Like for the silver card, you don't get like $1 1 point. You have to spend $3 to get a point and stuff like that. So, for me, really like the biggest nonsense ever.
Yeah.
So I've set myself a reminder for 6 months from now, where I'll go back and look into all of the numbers and see if there's any numbers to be had.
Awesome.
I think a lot of the time, if it doesn't work the way they wanted to, maybe they might try to hide those numbers, but I don't know. But either way, the reminder is there, so I'll be able to take a look, and we'll be able to go through it all together. And we'll do it in public and openly, and whatever ends up happening, whoever's right is right. So that'll be kind of interesting. But anyway, there is this next topic, which I think hopefully should be covered a lot more quickly, because I feel like there should be a general consensus here. Although it is interesting how some other groups in particular, like Built, for example, have been accused of overcomplicating things now. But The point 2 is simplification. Complex distance/class earning matrices are dying. Revenue-based earning is taking over. What you spend is what you get. I think that's pretty clear, right? Both from like from marketing, product, whatever it is, people like things simple. Is there anything that's worth adding to this? I think it's pretty straightforward in this case.
Oh yeah, pretty straightforward.
Makes even more my point for the last one.
What you spend is what you get. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but they just shifted. They just shifted the what you get at the beginning from 1 to 0, so that they get more. They, as in the airline. Yeah, totally agree with this number 2. No need to.
All right, that one's pretty clear cut.
One thing on number 2, if you think about the agents conversation that we had before, in theory, they don't really they can absorb a lot of information and also compute it better than we do. So in theory,
don't care.
Yeah, it's fine. But if I have an agent that actually checks out 5 airlines and they can have the most complicated rules, but at the end of the day, the agent tells me, hey, look, number 1, you get the most amount of value here because you spend $1,000, and I checked that with those $1,000, we'll get back, just saying a number, $50 plus minus worth of flights here, right? I don't really care about how complicated the airline does that thing.
Yeah, I guess the next conversation after that is, how much do you trust an agent that tells you, hey, this is a very complicated rewards program, but trust me, bro, this is definitely the most lucrative one.
I was going to say,
that's a completely different conversation.
Imagine it books a flight to the destination you have to go, but with 5 stops in between because it maximizes the points and the loyalty tier status.
Hey, there it just depends on how many points are in it for me. I don't mind.
1 hour flight would be a 6-hour flight.
Also about your preferences. Obviously, if you tell it maximize points, then it will do that.
Yeah.
If you say maximize the points, but I want non-stop, then obviously would take that as a rule.
I don't mind layovers. There you go. That's all there is to it. Anyway, the third point is digital first debuts. Brands like Wingstop and Portillo's launched loyalty for the first time in 2025. I don't know if those brands mean anything to either of you guys. For me, I don't know who or where they are. But with modern app native or even app-less architectures, no legacy baggage. So I guess this is just a continuation of the whole Internet of Things digitalization conversation. I'm assuming. I mean, how do you guys see point 3? Is it like, oh, we don't have stamp cards anymore, everything is online and digital, or?
I had to briefly search what appless means because I wasn't aware what that meant. And just saying digital first debuts, to me, whenever I hear digital first, it's just so weird to me. To me, it sounds like people are still talking about, do I need a website or do I need an app? You know, we're in 2026. Yes, you do need a digital presence. Yeah. In this context, okay, sure, yes, handing out physical stamp cards doesn't make sense necessarily anymore. People don't want physical things. They would just want everything on their phone. And the appless architecture, so I just checked what appless means. It basically goes in the direction of not needing an interface because maybe an AI agent is taking care of everything. That's basically the conversation without even knowing that what I was talking about before is that the UI does not exist anymore because it's an agent interface. So it's just code-based, maybe APIs, access that it needs, and that's it. That I would see that, of course, in light of what we just talked about half an hour ago with the first article, the appless architectures make sense, that that businesses and loyalty programs are building more for that, so that it facilitates AI agent executions. I would assume that maybe that's a competitive advantage in the future if it makes a difference. I'm not sure. That's always a topic about how capable agents are in terms of needing a browser or having direct access to everything, direct access to the interfaces that they work through. But yeah, makes sense. Let's just go digital first.
All right. You heard it here first. Keep it digital. Anyway,
build a website.
Honestly, like, to be fully honest, I mean, what is the other option? Stamp cards.
Stamp cards.
I don't know.
I'm serious. Like,
That's more a gimmick, I guess.
I mean, in 26, talking about digital first,
yeah,
is kind of talking about, I don't know, like something so obvious.
Yeah. Hey, it's fine though, because now we can move into something that's
like, you should build a website if you have a business. Wow, thank you. Like, it's an amazing input.
This segment is Gabriela's rant on.
No, but like, but just to be like to be fully honest, like, again, like, but it's crazy how, again, in 26, on one side we started talking about agents that we don't have to do shit. Basically, they do everything for us. And then we have still some people talking about, hey, it's very important to go digital first, and that these brands actually started with modern app native or app-less, whatever it is, architectures, no legacy baggage. I can't even imagine what the other option is. That's the crazy part. It's literally the only thing that I have in my mind is a stamped card.
No, that's why appless makes sense. Like that he added appless makes sense, because appless would be there is no interface. It's agent working. So going in that direction.
I would say they thought about either web app or website, not agent. And that's the other topic. I mean, I also would say that digital first debuts would more go in the direction, honestly, of building something that an agent can use well, because the future most probably will be that
that's
you're
the appless architecture.
Debatable.
That's what I'm saying. I just searched it now to see what it means. It means that there's no app, there's no interface for a human to interface with. It's agent first. So that's what I mean. So it is giving credit to digital first in that sense as well, not
then
just
agent first debuts would sound much better. Anyways, but I also think that like people will be like whatever they're using, ChatGPT or whatever it is, and they don't actually have to visit any websites, any apps, and so on. Everything will be there. But anyways, digital first.
Perfect.
Let's
Yes, we're all for it.
Something amazing, new technology.
All right, now point number 4. And guys, by the way, I think we're probably just going to stick with this one because we're already at an hour and a half. And I think we would want a proper amount of time to talk about the other one that we wanted to mention. So let's just go over this, which is cross-brand consolidation. This is something that we've seen a lot. Cruises, clothing, and more are bundling under umbrella loyalty programs. Earn everywhere, redeem everywhere era is accelerating. I mean, we kind of play a very central, integral role sort of in that ourselves a little bit. So I don't know if there's any overarching big picture takes, maybe Gabriela, that you would like to say about this?
Gabriela, go ahead.
We push pedal to the metal here. What is the driving force of that macro trend?
No,
it makes a lot of sense. Like again, like Richie, our daily bread, and makes a huge amount of sense. Like not every brand needs a loyalty program, and
I wanted to say disagree with this one, Gabriela, huh?
I was gonna add actually, although
what?
If you want to be nitpicky about the way it's written, it says cruises, clothing, and more are building under umbrella loyalty programs. One thing that we are aiming towards is not necessarily having umbrella loyalty programs, which are coalitions, if I understand it correctly, right? It's one point many businesses.
Well,
no, it doesn't. No, I'm saying, but it can go in that direction, or also just making the loyalty economy or ecosystem more interconnected, that they can talk to one another. but that's the only thing I was gonna nitpick on.
I think it depends on the market and the brand, etc. But I mean, at the end of the day, the smaller, or let's say our thesis, the smaller brand is, the less resources they have to actually build their own loyalty program. So it makes a lot of sense to connect to a major loyalty program. And then obviously the bigger you are, the more, not even the more, but then it can make more sense to actually build your own loyalty program. Also because you have a much bigger incentive to be closer to your customers, to understand better your customers and all of that stuff. But in general, cross-brand consolidation and tying up a lot of partners into one loyalty program or multiple loyalty programs makes a huge amount of sense. It's more valuable for the loyalty program, for the consumer, and for the partners.
The earn everywhere and redeem anywhere is definitely that sums it up beautifully. Yeah.
And just a quick follow-up, Gabriele. Although I'm guessing this might probably factor into like some of the sales calls you've probably had, but like when businesses are, you know, considering it, right? If outreach is done and there's a call and everything, and they say, okay, this does seem interesting, you know, it would be curious to be part of like such a big network and everything. Have you noticed that there's ever like one main thing, one main driving factor, like one thing that you say that you can say like, I got them, you know, you can like see in their face, okay, they see this and this is what actually won them over when you're in one of these calls? Because I think it's pretty clear, at least for the three of us, that when it's like bigger overarching things, so we've seen, you know, hotels and banks or airlines or cruises, like for them to partner up and go under an umbrella program, like that makes a lot of sense. That makes clear sense. They have this overlapping customer base, etc. But if there's another, like one of these that then takes the form of maybe a smaller, you know, family-owned business or something that has good margins and that would like to, you know, expand, and getting into a loyalty program could be something like that.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a kicker? Like, is there something that that is very clear, or is it just like the general sale as a whole that really convinces them?
I mean, generally, when we say it's digital first, then people always react.
It's digital first? Oh my god.
That's the trigger. Like, hey, customers don't come with like physical tokens. It's all digital. No, I would say the biggest trigger is the brands behind those large loyalty programs. So take Miles and More, right? I mean, it's a huge thing for a lot of smaller brands, for SMBs, to be able to say, hey, I'm a partner of Miles and More. So that gives you a huge brand elevation. It gives a huge trust towards potential customers that don't know you yet. So they see, okay, that must be a trusted brand because they actually work with a corporate like a Miles and More together, right? So it's not even the loyalty currency itself, so the miles that you receive, but it is, you get the miles from Miles and More. And I can say that, like, I'm a partner of Miles and More. So I think that's really the biggest, and that goes back to cross-brand consolidation. It's really not having to spend money on my own loyalty program, being able to associate myself to such a huge brand, and being able to issue a loyalty currency and accept a loyalty currency that actually people like and want. That is a huge value. Again, I think branding is the kicker.
Yeah.
Which we also often hear, like a lot of brands that we talk to were like, hey, I already thought about connecting to Miles and More, but I didn't even dare to write them because I know I'm too small. So there is a lot of those, let's say, of those conversations, and so brand is for sure the trigger.
Very nice. I mean, I think that's probably pretty clear. And one of the most interesting, probably, I mean, for us, definitely the most relevant point in this entire list, of course. But as everything continues, he asks the question, which of these trends surprised you most? Maybe that would be one of the perfect finishing questions for you guys, is things that you might have noticed that maybe in 2025, maybe that you weren't expecting, and that you expect to continue in 2026. So I'm not going to say that, like, for example, on my side, I'm not going to say I wasn't expecting an agentic trend. I just didn't expect it, I think, to explode with the sort of magnitude and velocity with which it did. That was a pretty big one for me. Just seeing how much it was able to grow, or how much something like OpenClaw was able to grow within just a month. And then to see the subsequent conversations about merchants, about payment systems, about rewards and things like that after that, it feels like this has already been going on and conversations have been happening for a year. But like, if you think about it in perspective, it's only been like, I don't know, 2 months or something since these things actually happened. So the timeline moves really fast. I'm sure that's going to be a big one. I'm wondering if there's anything that comes to mind for you guys. Maybe Gianluca, we can start with you on this one. You know, in the loyalty industry that you've noticed last year that might continue on this year.
One thing that I was somewhat surprised about, but not to the extent that I'm like, shock, you know, is the fact that a lot of loyalty programs that have premium tiers or that have tier systems opened up the ability to purchase those tiers. It was something that I don't know, maybe it's, again, not a surprise, but more so I've become more aware of it also through the podcast, to be honest, from the conversation that we had. I have become more aware of that, where in the past it was always something about attainability, or not attainability, I think is the wrong word, of attaining the status and not being able to purchase the status. I think it's something pretty cool because it gives you benefits immediately. And especially if you're someone who wants to use the loyalty program more extensively, but maybe doesn't have the time to invest and the resources to invest to get the tier, can just buy the tier and then has the benefits for at least a few stays or whatever, the few flights or the few purchases that you do. That's pretty cool. But again, it's not a massive surprise. It's more so something I've become more aware of last year. And I do believe a few loyalty programs did open it up. Did open up the premium tiers last year. So it was also new to some. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah.
Gabriella, on your side?
Good question.
Thank you.
No, I mean, on one side, but this is actually something more I hope that it stops rather than it continues, is how many programs actually made their program more difficult. And you had a lot of backlashes last year from a few different programs that we also talked about it, like Beat Starbucks that changes 3 times the program, being, I don't know, More that changed now a few things with the dynamic pricing, and a few people are happy, a few people are not happy, or also the credit card change that people are not at all happy. Build that made it super complicated. More also with the change of qualifying points and status points. Like, I mean, I still don't get it, and I use that program almost on a weekly basis. I think that is really crazy, because if we talk about simplification, as we also talked before about it, and actually certain programs did it more difficult to understand it, not even to get it, to attain certain things, but just to understand them. I think that's pretty crazy, and I hope it stops. The other topic, I really think agents will be I think we have to take it also with a grain of salt, because all of that movement that happened, and actually it's fun because it was discussed in the last All In podcast, like the original All In from the besties, and there was also a lot of talk about, hey, you have a lot of corporates right now that basically almost have to test AI in certain use cases, right? So they all invest certain budgets, but no one actually came out and said this is the killer use case besides coding where you actually can have a clear return on investment. And that is something that, again, AI is, everybody's talking about agents and all of that stuff. Also, I mean, open cloud, the same topic, like everybody's talking about it. I didn't hear one very clear use case where someone said, I automatized this, now I save so much time per day. So for me, it's still like something where, and it's completely natural, like new technology, you have an exploration, you have a discovery phase, you test 1,000 different use cases. At the end, you will have 5 to 10 that actually stick, right? So it's a completely normal procedure. That's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also there's a lot of hype around that is not yet justified, and that we'll actually have to see what is actually sticking. The same topic as with all these revenues from these AI companies. Yeah, they make a huge amount of cash, and they mostly talk about the specific months time 12. So that's how they mostly calculate what kind of ARR they have and so on. Nobody talks about the retention rates. And I made my experience with some sales AIs where I checked out all the reviews, because I really wanted to understand, okay, which one can we actually use internally to be faster in prospecting, to be faster in outreach and all of that stuff. When you start reading the reviews, you see that retention rate of those tools is almost zero, because they promise a huge amount of stuff. People pay a huge amount, and they make often the calculation of the pricing. Hey, if you pay an SDR, I don't know, 3-4K a month, just pay me 1.5, and then you save 50% of the money, and you have the same value. That even works in the night, right? Also, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not true. And that's why, like, I think agents and AI will 100% like not started last year, but gets every year more hyped. And I 100% believe there's a huge amount of value behind it. I mean, the whole team in the company is using it, and we see a lot of value in various things, right? But we're not there yet where we can say, hey, you know, you can lean back and
Hands off, yeah.
correct, the agent does everything for you. But I think that's for sure something that we'll keep seeing in this year, 100%, and going stronger and stronger. So I think
Very nice.
that's
a good one.
It's an obvious
Yeah.
one. I think it's one
That's
that is
probably the one. Yeah, 100%. And
premiumization and digital first.
Digital first. I was gonna say, because we're wrapping up today, if there's one lesson that we learned today, it's that digital first is the way to go. 100%.
Maybe we should go physical first. It's like, you know, back to the root.
True. You're gonna be different from the rest. Hey guys, we have cards. Everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, they have cards. No.
Your points home via mail.
You get these little chips, right?
There's actually, like, the fun thing is, certain grocery stores also here in Switzerland, they still ask you, do you want stickers for the pan?
Here as well, Edeka and stuff, they still do that. Yeah.
Like, okay, I mean, I know obviously this is for a certain customer
Age
segment.
group. Yeah.
But like,
anyway. This has been a very fun episode, guys. Not gonna lie. It's been a good time. Do we have any final remarks, any final things to mention before we close it out for today, other than digital first?
Go check out Mega Man Battle Network.
and
Words of wisdom.
I'm telling you.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you guys, everybody, for watching. As always, we get into these episodes and we just, honestly, I feel like we could have probably filled out the entire hour and a half just talking about the first article, to be honest. But hey, that's just how interesting it is. And we are in this sort of discovery phase where so much novelty is happening. And of course, when a gold mine gets discovered, right, the gold diggers will come and people will build businesses around those towns. There's a lot of money to be made, but of course, there's a lot of people to take advantage as well of the people that are going over there. So that's always the analogy that I've always heard, is when there's a gold mine and there's a gold rush, the people that actually make the most money and that are the most well off are usually those that open up nearby a saloon or a hairdresser or, you know, any of these businesses that actually help the people stay there. So it's like that's where the smart money is actually building something around it. People have been able to, you know, use that analogy for crypto and everything, and it seems to be kind of the same thing here. But at the end of the day, it does continue to grow. It wouldn't surprise me if we also have an agentic conversation 2 weeks from now. Honestly, I'm hoping that there will be one episode eventually where we talk about something completely different, just as a little refresher. But hey, we're gonna have to see. We go where the trends go because that's where everything lies, and honestly, that's where all the attention is. Everybody is talking about it. So if you have any takes about this entire agentic revolution, and B, what it sort of means for the loyalty industry, drop in a comment, drop in your takes. We would love to find some and actually discuss them. I think that would be really, really fun thing to do. And on top of everything else, yeah, just a general thank you. We will keep on releasing these episodes bi-weekly on the usual channels, YouTube and Spotify, and we're going to continue to post about it. We've got links to our LinkedIn files underneath, our LinkedIn profiles, I should say. And yeah, that's basically everything for today, and we will catch you all in the next one. So for now, thank you guys so much. Gabriele, Gianluca, thank you guys as always for the time, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.